somewhere right now, a grown adult is having a full emotional breakdown because their caviar was 2 degrees too warm and their infinity pool horizon line is slightly off-center. These are real complaints from real wealthy people who have run out of actual problems so completely that they invented new ones and somehow made them worse. If you have ever felt poor for absolutely no reason, wait until you hear what 61 of these people said out loud with full confidence to another human being. I stay until the end because number 47 will make you question everything you thought you knew about money and sanity existing in the same person. 1. A woman complained that her Porsche's heated steering wheel only had 3 temperature settings instead of 5. She sat in her driveway for 11 minutes, trying every combination before calling the dealership in genuine distress. The service manager listened carefully and suggested she try gloves. She hung up immediately. When her husband later asked how the drive went, she told him she never made it out of the driveway because some problems are simply too serious to push through. He nodded slowly and went back inside without saying another word. Was she wrong, though? 2. A man paid $400 for a single appetizer at a fine dining restaurant, and the caviar arrived at 61 degrees instead of 59. He knew instantly, and he flagged the waiter with the calm energy of someone who had been personally wronged by science. The waiter brought a thermometer to prove him wrong, and instead proved him right. The table went completely silent. His dining partner stared at the bread basket pretending to read it like a menu. The chef came out personally. Nobody won that evening. But was he technically correct, though? 3. A man's Tesla voice assistant refused to recognize his accent every single time he said play yacht rock. He demonstrated the problem to his wife 17 times in the driveway. She heard it perfectly on attempt 4 but stayed quiet. He filed a formal complaint with Tesla customer support describing the situation as a quality of life issue. Tesla responded with a software update suggestion. He called that response dismissive. His wife has since learned to pretend the radio does not exist. The car still plays smooth jazz every single morning without apology. Is technology truly ready for the wealthy? 4. A woman noticed her Rolex tan line at the beach and immediately understood the damage. People were absolutely drawing conclusions about her collection size. She repositioned her lounger 3 times and angled her wrist toward the sun for 40 minutes, trying to even the situation out naturally. A stranger nearby complimented her watch. She smiled politely and felt nothing. Her beach bag contained 2 backup watches she could not decide between. She wore neither. The tan line remained. She left the beach 2 hours early and has not returned since that afternoon. Can one tan line truly betray an entire lifestyle? 5. A personal trainer arrived 2 minutes early to a home gym session and completely destroyed the pre-workout intention setting. Her the client was mid-breathing exercise on a custom meditation mat when the doorbell rang and shattered everything. She opened the door still holding her wellness journal. The trainer apologized. She accepted it in the way people accept apologies they do not actually accept. The session continued in silence for the first 11 minutes. She later emailed the agency requesting a trainer who understands that punctuality and earliness are spiritually different concepts. The agency read that email 4 times before responding. Should early even be allowed? 6. A dad discovered the private school tuition had increased again and immediately checked the facility updates on the parent portal. No second hot tub had been added to the faculty lounge. He had raised this exact issue at 3 consecutive parent meetings. He raised it again in a strongly worded email with the subject line investment versus experience. And the principal responded that faculty wellness was actively being reviewed. He forwarded that response to his wife and wrote beneath it, "See what we are dealing with." She read it and closed her laptop. The faculty still has 1 hot tub. Is 1 hot tub even a hot tub? 7. A woman booked a vacation villa with 11 bedrooms, and upon arrival discovered only 9 of them had ocean views. She stood in the hallway doing the maths twice. 2 bedrooms were simply facing inland like they had given up. She called the rental agency and used the word unbalanced 4 separate times in the same sentence. The agent offered a partial refund. She declined because partial was not the point. Her travel companion quietly claimed one of the ocean view rooms and said nothing. The inland rooms remained empty for the entire 2-week stay. Was the villa truly even worth it? 8. A woman boarded her private jet and discovered the oat milk she had specifically requested was completely gone. The flight attendant presented regular oat milk as a substitute with genuine confidence. She looked at the regular oat milk for a long moment. She looked back at the flight attendant. The flight attendant maintained eye contact. She accepted it silently and spent the next 40 minutes not enjoying it in the way she had planned to enjoy the correct oat milk. She filed a catering complaint before landing while still in the air. The regular oat milk sat mostly untouched. Does substitution even count as trying? 9. A man hired a personal chef specifically for the truffle pasta experience, and the truffle arrived pre-shaved in a container like a normal ingredient. He sat at the table and waited for the theater that never came. The pasta was technically perfect. He knew this. He could not enjoy it anyway. He explained to the chef that tableside shaving was not a preference but a ritual, and that removing it changed the entire emotional architecture of the meal. The chef nodded and said he understood. He did not understand. The pasta cooled slightly during the explanation. Can food even taste right without the performance? 10. A woman's wine cellar humidity control app crashed at 9:30 on a Thursday evening, and she was forced to physically walk downstairs to check on the bottles herself. She stood in the cellar for several minutes doing what the app usually did, and it felt wrong in a way she could not fully explain to her husband, who was watching from the doorway. He offered to help. She said this was not a 2-person problem. She refreshed the app 11 times before bed. It came back online at midnight. She checked it immediately and felt relief she was not proud of. Should wine ever require this much cardio? 11. A woman's Peloton instructor gave a birthday shout-out to someone else during her birthday ride, and she stopped pedaling immediately. She had been on the bike for 40 minutes, building toward that exact moment. She sat completely still while the class continued around her. The instructor called out a name that was not hers with full enthusiasm and genuine energy. She closed the app. She did not close it calmly. She later left a review explaining that acknowledgement is the entire product, and without it the bike is simply an expensive clothes hanger. Her husband moved the bike to the garage the following week. Does a birthday even count without a shout-out? 12. A woman's personal shopper secured the limited edition bag in the exact color she wanted, but failed to grab the second colorway just in case, and it sold out within hours. She received the confirmed purchase notification and felt nothing because the other one was already gone. She called her shopper immediately. The shopper apologized and explained inventory moved faster than expected. She explained that anticipating inventory speed was literally the entire job description. The shopper had no response to that. The bag she did receive sat in its dust bag for 3 weeks unopened as a form of protest. Was getting one bag even a win here? 13. A mom discovered the nanny had packed the wrong brand of organic applesauce in her child's Toomey lunchbox, and her child had been forced to eat it in front of their peers at school. She found out during pickup, when her child described the experience using the word different. She called the nanny before reaching the car. The nanny confirmed the correct brand had been out of stock and offered an explanation involving supply chains. The mom listened to the full explanation and then repeated the brand name slowly 3 times. The nanny understood. The correct brand was ordered in bulk that same evening. Can a child ever fully recover from different? 14. A businessman complained that the golf course had mowed the fairway too short and his ball was now rolling toward the hole with far too much confidence. He brought this up at the 19th hole bar to 3 people who nodded without fully understanding the problem. He demonstrated the ball trajectory using a salt shaker and 2 coasters. The bar went slightly quiet. His playing partner suggested that more confident ball movement was generally considered a positive development in golf. Yanhee looked at his playing partner for a long moment and then looked back at his drink. He filed a formal grounds complaint the following morning. Is a ball allowed to be too confident? 15. A woman timed her rainfall shower head and discovered it was delivering 2.1 gallons per minute instead of the promised 2.4. She stood under it for a full minute collecting data with genuine focus. The difference was not dramatic. She felt it anyway. She pulled up the product specifications on her phone while still damp and cross-referenced 3 separate documents. She called the supplier and described the experience as barely a drizzle with complete seriousness. The supplier apologized and offered a replacement unit. She accepted and then took a bath instead for the next 2 weeks while waiting. Does a drizzle even count as a shower? 16. China man pointed out that his yacht had a jacuzzi on the bow, but nothing on the stern, and the relaxation asymmetry was ruining the entire starboard experience. He walked the length of the yacht twice to confirm the situation before speaking. His guests were already in the bow jacuzzi and appeared to be fine. He was not fine. He explained the problem to the captain using the words balance and intention several times in the same sentence. The captain nodded and made a note. No note was ever acted on. He spent the rest of the trip sitting near the stern in a chair that was technically dry. Can a yacht truly relax you with only one jacuzzi? 17. A woman at a Michelin star restaurant waited for the waiter to describe the provenance of the butter before it was placed on the table, and the waiter simply put it down and walked away. She looked at the butter had no context. She stopped her waiter mid-step and asked where it came from. He said France. She asked which region. He said he would check. He came back 4 minutes later with a region. She appreciated the region, but explained that the information should arrive with the butter, not after it, because now the butter had already happened without meaning. The waiter stared briefly. Does butter without a story even spread the same way? 18. A woman's smart fridge auto-ordered the wrong brand of sparkling water 3 separate times, and she had served it at dinner parties without realizing until a guest mentioned the label. She smiled through it each time. Inside, she was not smiling. She investigated the fridge settings for 40 minutes and found the substitution preference had been switched to automatic. She turned it off immediately. She then sat at her kitchen island thinking about the 3 dinner parties and what people must have thought. Her husband said nobody noticed. She did not find that comforting in the way he intended. Has a fridge ever caused this much social damage? 19. A woman's Dyson hairdryer was discontinued, and the replacement model had a slightly different nozzle angle that rotated her entire blowout by several degrees every single morning. She noticed on day 1. She adjusted her technique, and the angle remained. She filmed herself drying her hair and watched it back to confirm the rotation was real and not psychological. It was real. She sent the video to Dyson with a written explanation describing the cumulative effect of starting every morning slightly rotated. Dyson offered a replacement unit of the same model. She already had that unit. That was the problem. Is a slightly rotated blowout still a blowout? 20. A woman discovered her organic cotton sheets had a thread count of 1,200 instead of the 1,400 she had been promised, and she could feel every single missing thread against her body each night. She requested the original invoice and cross-referenced it with the product listing. The discrepancy was confirmed in writing. She called the bedding company and described the physical sensation of sleeping on 1,200 threads as something she would not wish on anyone. The representative offered a full replacement. She accepted and slept on the guest sheets for 9 nights while waiting. Her husband slept on the same 1,200 threads and reported no issues. Can 200 threads really change a person's entire night? 21. A woman sent her golden doodle to the groomer and collected him that evening, only to discover the lavender finishing mist had been completely forgotten. She noticed in the car before leaving the car park. The dog smelled clean. Just clean. Not spa clean. Not the specific lavender cloud she had come to expect on collection day. She turned the car around and went back inside. The groomer apologized and offered to reapply the mist immediately. She accepted, but explained that the integrity of the grooming experience existed as a complete package, and that forgetting the final step was like serving a cake without icing. The dog waited in reception a second time. Does clean without lavender even count as groomed? 22. A dad refused to pay the premium rate for his children's ski instructor after discovering the instructor had only been skiing for 22 years instead of 25. He raised this during the lesson booking call with complete seriousness. The booking agent paused for several seconds before responding. He filled the silence by explaining that 3 years represented a meaningful experiential gap when children were involved, and the agent confirmed the instructor held every available certification. He said certifications and years were related, but not the same thing. The call ended without a booking. He found a different instructor with 26 years experience and paid without hesitation. Are 22 years of skiing ever really enough? 23. A woman hired a destination wedding planner and on the morning of her reception discovered the table linen was ivory instead of white. She identified the difference from 15 feet away before anyone else had entered the room. She called the planner immediately from inside the venue. The planner was also inside the venue. She called anyway. The planner explained that ivory and white photographed nearly identically in natural light. She replied that photographs were permanent, and nearly was not a word that belonged to anywhere near her wedding. The planner offered replacement linen with 3 hours' notice. The replacement arrived in a shade that was arguably closer to cream. Did her wedding ever recover from nearly white? 24. A man's helicopter pilot took a scenic route to the ski resort without asking first and added 6 unplanned minutes to the journey. He noticed the deviation almost immediately and looked out the window with the expression of someone watching a mistake happen in slow motion. He asked the pilot to confirm the route. The pilot confirmed it enthusiastically and pointed out a frozen lake below. He did not look at the lake. He explained that his powder window was a finite and serious thing, and that 6 minutes represented real snow in real conditions that was now unavailable to him. The pilot nodded. The lake was genuinely beautiful. Was the powder worth more than the view? 25. A man felt personally assessed when his sommelier recommended a $300 bottle instead of the $600 one, and spent the rest of the evening wondering what exactly had given the impression that his palate required guidance toward the cheaper option. He ordered the $600 bottle immediately and without consulting the menu further. His dining companion asked if it was good. He said that was not the point. The sommelier returned to pour and complimented the choice. He accepted the compliment in the way people accept things they feel they should not have needed to earn. The wine was excellent. He did not fully enjoy it. Can a sommelier ever truly recover from underestimating a man? 26. A woman's automated blackout curtains opened from the center every single morning instead of the sides, and the bedroom reveal was completely ruined as a daily experience. She had specifically discussed the opening direction during the installation consultation. She had documentation. The curtains opened incorrectly on day 1 and continued opening incorrectly every morning for 3 weeks before she contacted the installer. The installer arrived and confirmed the setting had been programmed in reverse. He fixed it in 4 minutes. She watched the curtains open correctly once and felt a satisfaction that concerned her slightly. And her husband had not noticed the curtains opened at all during the 3 weeks. Should a curtain direction affect a person this deeply? 27. A woman collected her cashmere coat from the dry cleaner and knew immediately that the collar was different. It held her neck in a way the original collar had never held her neck, and the sensation was completely new and entirely unwelcome. She returned to the counter while still wearing the coat. The dry cleaner examined the collar and confirmed no alterations had been made. She explained that no alteration and no change were not the same statement, and that her neck remembered the original fit precisely. The dry cleaner offered to send it for specialist review. She left it and wore a different coat for 6 weeks during the investigation. can a collar change a person without technically changing at all? 28. A man staying at a hotel woke up mid-affirmation on a quiet morning to 2 knocks at the door before the butler entered with his coffee. He had specifically requested 1 knock as part of his morning ritual briefing at check-in. He accepted the coffee silently. He did not drink it immediately. He sat with it and thought about the knock and what the second one had interrupted inside him, and whether the affirmation could be restarted or whether the morning was simply lost. He spoke to the concierge before lunch and explained the knock situation with a calmness that suggested considerable inner effort. The butler knocked once every morning after that. Can a second knock undo an entire morning? 29. A woman at a private beach club discovered an umbrella had been repositioned and was now blocking approximately 6 degrees of her sunset view from her usual lounger. She noticed the moment the sun began its descent, and the shadow fell incorrectly across her line of sight. She called a member of staff over and described the obstruction using both degrees and emotional terms in the same sentence. The staff member offered to move her lounger slightly. She explained that she had used that specific lounger for 4 consecutive summers, and that moving the lounger was not the solution because the umbrella was the variable that had changed. The umbrella was moved 2 inches. 3 degrees remained blocked. Was the sunset ever truly the same again? 30. A man who owned 3 properties discovered his mail forwarding had routed 2 letters to the house he was not currently staying at. He found out when his assistant mentioned it during a briefing. He sat quietly for a moment processing the administrative failure. He then asked his assistant to explain how a system designed specifically to track his location had misidentified his location. His assistant had no satisfying answer. He sent a formal complaint to the mail forwarding service describing the situation as a failure of personalized logistics at a premium tier. The service apologized and offered an account credit. He did not want a credit. He wanted the system to know where he was. Does mail forwarding truly understand the wealthy? 31. And a man drove his golf cart to the 10th hole and reached into the cooler for his Perrier, only to find there was no cup holder insert, and the bottle had been rattling loose across the entire back 9. He held it between his knees for 3 holes before saying anything. His caddy offered to hold it. He declined. He filed a resort complaint that evening describing the experience as structurally incomplete. The resort manager responded within the hour, and he appreciated the speed but not the solution, which was a complimentary bottle of still water. Does Perrier rattle differently when nobody fixes anything? 32. A man's private wine subscription delivered a left bank Bordeaux when his profile clearly and specifically said right bank only. He had been a member for 2 years. They had his data. He opened the box with the calm of someone who already knew what they were about to find. He called his account manager and reminded her that 2 years of purchasing history represented a detailed and intimate portrait of his preferences. She apologized and offered a replacement. He accepted and then spent the evening explaining left bank versus right bank to his wife, who listened carefully and then asked if both were red. Can 2 years of data simply mean nothing? 33. A woman's penthouse elevator opened directly into her living room, but the call button had been installed on the left side of the panel instead of the right, and her muscle memory had never once recovered from it. She reached for the right side every single morning. Every single morning the button was not there. She had contacted the building twice. Both times they confirmed the button was functional. She explained that functional and correctly placed were different categories of problem entirely. Her husband used the stairs whenever possible and pretended this was for fitness reasons. The button remained on the left. Does a misplaced button ever stop being misplaced? 34. A woman discovered her interior designer had installed 900 GSM towels in the guest bathroom and only 850 GSM towels in the primary suite, which was completely backwards from every reasonable understanding of guest to owner hierarchy. She felt it immediately on the first use. She walked to the guest bathroom and felt those towels too. She stood in the hallway holding one from each room. Her husband walked past and she showed him both without saying anything. He said they felt the same. She put them both down and called the designer before dinner. The towels were swapped the following morning. Should a guest ever have a better towel than the owner? 35. A woman mentioned to a neighbor that her children's private tutor drove a Camry to the house 3 times a week, and the neighbors had begun asking questions she simply did not have answers for. She raised the subject carefully, with the tutoring agency explaining that the arrangement reflected on the household in ways that were difficult to quantify but very easy to feel. The agency confirmed the tutor held 3 advanced degrees and had a 96% student success rate. She said she understood all of that and was still raising the point. The tutor continued arriving in the Camry. The neighbors continued noticing. Can a Camry undermine an entire academic reputation? 36. A businessman had his art consultant acquire a piece for his office that he genuinely loved until his accountant also loved it, and now every quarterly meeting felt like an unsolicited collaboration he had never agreed to. He mentioned this to his wife, who suggested moving the piece. He said moving it would mean the accountant had won something. She asked what exactly the accountant had won. He did not have a precise answer, but felt the answer existed. He considered buying a second piece the accountant would not understand. He bought it. The accountant complimented that one too. Is shared taste in art a form of financial violation? 37. A woman's juice cleanse was delivered in round bottles, and she had specifically requested square bottles because they stacked efficiently in her secondary fridge, and round bottles simply spun every time she opened the door. She called the cleanse company the morning of delivery. The representative explained that round bottles were the standard format. She explained that standard and correct were not the same thing, and that her secondary fridge had a specific internal logic the round bottles were actively disrupting. The company offered a redelivery in square bottles within 48 hours. She completed the cleanse using the round bottles and felt unsettled the entire time. Can a bottle shape affect a cleanse result? 38. A man got into his second car on a Tuesday morning and spent approximately 4 seconds feeling briefly poor before remembering it had leather seats and not Napa leather like his first car. 4 seconds was long enough. He sat in the driveway longer than necessary, recalibrating. His wife knocked on the window and asked if he was leaving. He said yes and then did not leave for another 2 minutes. He later mentioned the experience to a friend who suggested he sell the second car. He said that was not the point, and that the point was the 4 seconds and what they meant about how quickly comfort could be lost. Should a second car ever make a person feel anything? 39. A man ordered a deconstructed dessert at a fine dining restaurant and identified exactly what it was supposed to be before the plate had fully landed on the table. The philosophical premise had completely collapsed. He explained this to his dining companion, who said it looked delicious. He said that was not the issue. He flagged the waiter and described the problem using the word deconstruction 4 times with increasing precision. The waiter offered to speak with the chef. The chef came out and explained the concept. He told the chef he understood the concept and that understanding it was specifically the problem. Did the dessert ever have a chance? 40. A woman noticed the HOA had repainted the entrance gate in a slightly warmer white that clashed directly with her car's pearl finish every time she pulled out in direct sunlight. She photographed the clash from 3 angles and submitted them to the HOA board with a written explanation describing the color relationship as aesthetically hostile. The board responded that the new shade tested highest in resident satisfaction surveys. She asked to see the survey. She was not in the survey. She submitted a formal objection and attached the photographs again, in case they had not been studied carefully enough the first time. The gate remained warm white. Can a gate color be a personal attack? 41. A woman received her custom monogrammed stationery and noticed immediately that the font kerning was slightly tighter than the approved proof. She held the first sheet next to the proof for a long time. The difference was measurable only to her. She measured it anyway. She called the stationer and explained that every letter she now wrote felt like a forgery of her own identity, and that kerning was not a minor detail but the entire personality of a monogram. The stationer offered a reprint. She accepted and used the incorrect batch for nothing, not one letter. They sat in the drawer like evidence. Can tighter kerning truly steal a person's identity? 42. A woman stopped speaking to her personal florist on March 3rd after the florist substituted garden roses for peonies in her weekly arrangement and described them as very similar. She received the arrangement and set it down without the usual appreciation ritual. She texted the florist one word: different. The florist responded with a 3-paragraph explanation involving seasonal availability and supplier delays. She read all 3 paragraphs. She remained unavailable for the following 2 weeks. Her husband bought her flowers from a regular shop during the silence and placed them on the table without saying anything. She looked at them for a long time. Are garden roses and peonies actually similar in any way that matters? 43. A woman arrived at her Maldives overwater bungalow and discovered the glass floor panel was missing from the suite. She stood where it should have been and looked at solid floor. She had specifically chosen this property for the underwater viewing experience and had mentally prepared for it during a 12-hour flight. She called the front desk from inside the room. They confirmed the panel was under maintenance. She asked how a floor could be under maintenance without prior guest notification. They offered a complimentary snorkeling session as an alternative. She declined and spent the trip watching fish from the deck like she was on a regular holiday. Should a floor panel ever go missing without warning? 44. A man pulled into his country club, and the valet parked his car in spot 3 instead of spot 2 again. He sat in the car for a moment before getting out. Spot 2 was 8 feet closer to the entrance, and 8 feet was a very specific distance when you needed to be seen arriving by the right people at the right moment. He tipped the valet anyway because he was not unreasonable. He then spoke to the club manager inside and described the parking pattern as a recurring procedural failure. The manager apologized and made a note. Spot 3 was waiting for him again the following Thursday. Does 8 feet change everything or just enough? 45. A woman watched the sommelier walk directly to her husband's side of the table and pour the wine even though she had been the one to request the wine list and place the order. She smiled at the table. Inside the smile was a very specific kind of fury. Her husband noticed and carefully did not react. She waited until the sommelier left and then described what had just happened using the phrase table power dynamics with complete seriousness. Her husband agreed it was wrong. She appreciated that. It did not fix it. She ordered the next bottle herself and made deliberate eye contact with the sommelier throughout the entire pour. Was the second pour an apology or just wine? 46. And a man measured his estate boxwood hedges after the gardener left and confirmed they had been trimmed to 47 inches instead of 48. 1 inch. He walked the entire driveway slowly looking at the hedges from every angle. They read short. He could feel it even when he stopped measuring. He called the gardener and explained that a driveway's visual authority depended entirely on hedge height consistency and that 1 inch was not a small number when multiplied across a full property perimeter. The gardener offered to return and correct it. He said the damage to this week was already done. Were the hedges ever truly the right height again? 47. And a man received his bespoke suit and opened the garment bag to find the pocket square already folded into a neat triangle sitting in the breast pocket. He removed it immediately. The tailor had folded it, not him. The entire garment now felt like a collaboration he had not signed off on. And he called the tailor and explained that a pocket square was a daily personal expression and that arriving pre-folded represented an assumption about his preferences that no measurement session had ever authorized. The tailor apologized sincerely. He accepted it and refolded the square himself 3 times until it felt like his decision again. Can a pre-folded pocket square ever be unfolded enough? 48. A man's yacht captain dimmed the deck lights during dinner without being asked, and the table looked genuinely beautiful. He acknowledged this privately. What he could not acknowledge publicly was that the decision had been made without his input, and a correct, unrequested decision was still a procedural violation. He raised it with the captain after dinner, in a tone he described to himself as measured. The captain listened and said he would always ask in future. He said thank you, and meant it, and also meant the other thing simultaneously. His guests said it was the best dinner they had ever had on water. Does being right without asking count as being right? 49. A man booked the chef's table and was seated facing the kitchen directly instead of at the preferred angle, and spent the entire meal watching the cooking process unfold in real time. He had not come to watch, he had come to receive. He explained this distinction to his dining companion between courses using hand gestures. She said the kitchen was fascinating to observe. He said that was not the experience he had purchased. He flagged the maitre d' and described the seating as immersive in the wrong direction. They offered to adjust his chair angle by 15 degrees. It helped slightly. He did not admit it helped. Should a chef's table ever feel like a documentary? 50. A woman commissioned a hand-painted mural for her dining room, and the artist took 3 weeks instead of the agreed 2. She tracked the progress daily. By day 15, she had begun to feel that every brushstroke was happening slightly under protest. The artist finished on day 21, and the work was genuinely stunning. She stood in front of it for a long time. She served dinner in that room 4 days later and told her guests the artist had taken longer than expected, in a tone that reframed a masterpiece as a mild inconvenience. Her guests admired the mural. She admired it too, but quietly and with reservations. Can a late mural ever feel completely finished? 51. A woman discovered her personal chef had been using truffle-flavored oil instead of actual truffle oil for 6 full months, and every dinner party she had hosted during that period was now retroactively embarrassing. She sat with this information for a while before calling him. She thought about the guests. She thought about the compliments. She thought about the moment she herself had praised the depth of flavor in front of everyone. She called the chef and read out the dinner party dates one by one like evidence in a hearing. He confirmed each one quietly. She has not served truffle pasta to guests since that evening. Can 6 months of flavored oil ever truly be forgiven? 52. A woman returned to her kitchen after her housekeeper's weekly visit and discovered the entire pantry had been reorganized alphabetically. She opened the first cupboard and found herself staring at almonds next to anchovies, like she had entered someone else's home. She cooked that evening using the new system and described the experience to her husband as a trivia contest she had not entered. He found the almonds immediately and said nothing. She spent 40 minutes reorganizing by frequency of use while dinner was on the stove. The housekeeper arrived the following week and looked at the pantry without commenting. Does alphabetical order belong in a kitchen or only in a library? 53. A woman noticed at 11 at night, when the house was completely silent, that her wine refrigerator was producing a faint audible hum. She heard it once and could not unhear it. She lay in bed for 20 minutes before getting up to confirm the source. The hum was confirmed. She returned to bed and the hum followed her mentally. She researched the model at midnight and found one forum post describing the same frequency. One post, she felt less alone and also more disturbed. She called the supplier the next morning and described 11 p.m. as a ruined hour. The supplier sent a technician. The hum was considered normal. Is a normal hum still a hum that deserves silence? 54. A man inspected his lake house dock after the staining crew finished and identified immediately that the color was driftwood gray instead of the weathered gray he had specified. He crouched down and looked at it in direct sunlight. The difference was visible to him and invisible to every other person who looked at the dock that summer. His wife said it looked beautiful. His guests said it looked beautiful. He said thank you each time, and then looked at the dock again alone afterward. He submitted a formal complaint with a color swatch attached. The crew said the shades were from the same family. He said family was not the point. Can a doc be wrong if nobody else can see it? 55. A woman's estate chef emailed the weekly meal prep menu on Tuesday morning instead of Monday, and her entire Wednesday planning session collapsed as a result. She relied on Monday delivery to align her Wednesday calendar around meal timing. Tuesday created a one-day deficit that rippled forward in ways she tried to explain to the chef in a reply email that was longer than the menu itself. The chef apologized and confirmed Monday delivery going forward. She accepted and restructured Wednesday manually that week, using information she described as late. Her husband ate the meals without knowing any of this had happened. Does a one-day delay in a menu count as a scheduling emergency? 56. A man spent 14 months renovating his vacation home's outdoor kitchen, and upon completion discovered the grill had been installed on the left side of the counter. He was right-handed. Nobody had asked. Nobody had mentioned it. He stood at the grill on the first evening holding tongs on the wrong side and felt the full weight of 14 months arriving at the wrong conclusion. He called his contractor from the patio. The contractor confirmed the placement matched the approved plans. He pulled up the approved plans and looked at them for the first time since signing. The grill was on the left in the plans too. He had approved it himself. Can you be wronged by your own signature? 57. A woman's private chef sent the weekly menu as a PDF. And she could not leave inline comments, which meant feedback now required a phone call. And phone calls for menu adjustments felt like a completely unreasonable regression in communication technology. She replied to the first PDF with a voice note explaining the problem. She then realized a voice note was also a regression. She sent a written email describing her preference for Google Docs with shared commenting enabled. The chef confirmed he would switch formats. The following week, the menu arrived as a Word document. She stared at it for a long time before responding. Does a Word document mean the conversation is going backwards or forwards? 58. A woman's interior designer organized her private library using the Dewey Decimal System, and she has not been able to find a single book since the installation was completed. She knew where every book was before. She knew by feeling and color and memory and shelf position. Now she needed a number. She picked up a book that was not the book she wanted 3 times in one evening. She called the designer and explained that her personal library operated on a vibes-based system that had functioned perfectly for 11 years. The designer offered to recatalog. She accepted and did not enter the library again until it was finished. Should a private library ever require a system that requires a number? 59. A woman walked from her bedroom to the garage every single morning, and her feet found the cold strip of driveway that the heated system had missed near the garage door without fail. 80% coverage had sounded acceptable during the installation briefing. It was not acceptable at 6:45 in the morning in winter. She mentioned it to her husband, who suggested slippers. She looked at him. He did not suggest slippers again. She called the heating company and described the cold strip as a daily ambush. The technician confirmed extending coverage would require partial reinstallation. She approved it immediately and wore the same slippers every morning until the work was completed. Can 80% of a heated driveway ever be enough? 60. A businessman arrived at his club's cigar lounge on a Tuesday evening to find a second flat-screen television had been installed on the wall opposite the original. The contemplative silence he had relied on for 3 years was completely gone. He sat in his usual chair and felt the room differently. Both screens were showing different content simultaneously. He ordered his usual drink and stared at the middle distance between the 2 screens, finding no peace there either. He raised the matter with the club director in writing the following morning, describing the atmosphere as a sports bar with better chairs. The club director said member feedback on the screens had been overwhelmingly positive. Was his silence ever coming back? 61. A man sat in the members' lounge after 18 holes and listed every course complaint from that afternoon to his playing partner, who listened with the patience of someone with nowhere else to be. The fairway was too short. The cart had no cup holder insert. The valet used spot 3 again. The umbrella near the 14th hole blocked 2 degrees of skyline, and the locker room had only one brand of sparkling water. His playing partner nodded through all of it and then asked if he'd enjoyed the round. He paused for a long time. He said the weather had been perfect. His partner said that was something. He agreed and ordered another Perrier. Sometimes perfect weather is the only thing that goes right. And there you have it. 61 people with everything money can buy except the ability to handle any of it gracefully. If any of these complaints made you laugh out loud or question humanity entirely, hit that like button right now and subscribe to Ridiculous Complaints, because we find these people so you never have to. Turn on notifications so you never miss another episode of Wealth Behaving Badly. Now tell us in the comments which complaint made you lose faith in rich people the most.